So timeliness. I spoke about how recent an indicator is and how close it is to the bad activity. Every indicator has a life cycle. So there's a time where it's created and it's first used, and there's a time where it dies and it's no longer useful for detecting badness. And as we saw in the pyramid, often the time between those two things can be really short. In our experience of looking at e-crime indicators in particular, many of the indicators that we see looking at commodity botnets and malware infections have a shelf life of around 48 hours, sometimes even less than that. And we would say the majority of the indicators that we see across our botnets have a lifetime of less than 7 days. So what that means is, from that bad thing first happening to applying it to your security controls and detecting it, you have to make sure that you're within that window. And any indicators that you get that are older than that are likely already too old and too stale to be of value. If we look closer at that life cycle, what are the steps from that indicator first appearing to applying it to our security controls? So a bad thing has to happen. The bad thing has to be detected. Someone then looks at that and says, well, what is this? We identify an indicator associated with that bad thing. We validate this is a real indicator of compromise and not something legitimate. We share it to some indicator feed, then it's applied or shared with third parties. You might receive that indicator through your feeds, and then at some point you'll apply that to your security solutions, hoping it detects something. So as I said, that life cycle, for that to be effective as a detection mechanism, you have to be confident that you can get from the first stage to the last stage in less than 48 hours to be effective for many of the indicators that we see. What we try and do at SecureWorks is try and be a primary source of indicators so that we are making first-hand observations of badness, triaging those indicators and pushing them into Taegis as quickly as possible. So we are reducing the time between the first and last step. We're making sure we're making our own direct observations on those indicators rather than relying on third-party information or indicator feeds that we then have to validate ourselves. And we're also trying to maximize the automation from top to bottom between every one of those steps, because the quicker we can get those indicators triaged and into Taegis, the quicker we can detect things, but also the more likely that we are to detect things. So how do we do that? There's a number of ways, a number of platforms and processes that we have to process indicators and get them into customers' hands through Taegis. One of the main things that we do is botnet emulation. So what is botnet emulation? That's us using software to masquerade as an infected host. So if you have a botnet of 1 million infected hosts, we will write software that interacts with the command and control servers and really sits in amongst the millions or thousands of other hosts and pretends to be one of them. And we hope that we don't get spotted as a fake infection. Now, if we can successfully persuade the malware botnet that we are a true infected host, that then allows us to monitor the things that the command and control servers are sending to the victims. So it gives us a real-time interaction with the command and control infrastructure. It gives us up-to-date situational awareness for all of our researchers. But crucially, it allows us to do automated harvesting firsthand of the indicators generated by that malware family. So any new command and control infrastructure that it sends out, any new second stage payloads, if that's a malware that's delivering further malware, we're getting in real time instructions from the C2 servers that allows us to process that, triage it, and get it into Taegis. Currently, we're emulating over 12 malware families. Now, I could say 13, but the 13th is in development at the moment, so we're very close to having 13. But at the moment, we have 12 live botnet emulators in production talking to the live command and control infrastructure.